In my first week of fourth year dental school, my mom actually passed away. I helped my dad keep the office open by driving. I was 7 months away from graduating.
Welcome back to another episode. Thanks for joining us at the Moving to Markham show, where we're going to be spotlighting entrepreneurs that have created businesses and in today's case, thriving businesses here in Markham. We wanted to give an insight for people that may be considering a move to Markham, or maybe somebody that already lives here and wants to better understand, the who of Markham. And that's today we brought in a very special who. We brought in Dr. David Zelsman. He's actually my dentist, full transparency. He's worked on my own mouth, my family's mouth, for years and years, actually. And, I've always felt inspired whenever we have conversations, when I'm sitting in the chair, and I never know if I'm talking too much, under the Novocaine or not, but, I wanted to bring you onto the show, and thank you so much for being a guest today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit. So Dr. Zelsman, who is he?
So I graduated in 2018 as
Cool.
a dentist.
Where'd you graduate from? Where'd you go?
From University of Toronto.
U of T.
U of T. I'm married. I have a wife who's a hygienist at my practice.
Yeah, she's awesome.
And we've got we've got a 6-month-old baby boy named Austin.
Amazing.
And a French bulldog, 2-year-old French bulldog named Frankie. And
So you had Austin first, and then you had Frankie first, and then Austin.
right.
That makes sense, because not a lot of people have a newborn baby and say, what we need is more responsibility and time commitments.
Exactly. Yeah, we wanted to we always wanted a dog, but we figure if we can get the dog a little earlier, and then he's a bit more mature, so now when we bring the baby along,
That's a full family.
it's good. Yeah, it's good. We run the business together. She's off right now, of course, because of the baby, but
Amazing.
yeah,
Amazing. So how long have you been a dentist now?
6.5 years.
6.5 years. Amazing. And you come from a lineage. I mean, your parents were dentists, and something that was it in your DNA, or did you just choose this?
So a bit of both, I'd say. So I grew up, my parents were both dentists. My dad started in Markham in 1980. I actually looked it up. I think the population was between 60 and 80,000 back then, somewhere in there.
No way.
In 1976, it was in the 60s. So yeah, I started in Markham, at Markham Road and Highway 7. And then my mom was actually originally associating elsewhere, and then built in Markham as well on the south end in 84. Whether it was just genetic, in my lineage, hard to say. My sister was already a hygienist, Joanna, working for my mom's office and my dad's. I always sort of knew in high school, I even knew I wanted to be a dentist. I flipped between a few ideas, but I liked working with my hands and fixing things, and I always heard about it over the dinner table. So yeah.
It seems, quite common for people that are in specific paths that their kids may follow, especially if mom and dad do the same thing. Mom and dad are teachers. There's a good chance that one of the 2 or 3 kids will be a teacher. And it might come from the fact that that's just what you're used to, what you hear at the dinner table.
Exactly.
My parents were entrepreneurs. They had a ceramic tile company, and, my dad worked in construction, and, houses was what we talked about.
Right.
I think if my dad had a better grasp of the English language when he came to Canada, he probably would have been a real estate agent, because, he loves people, and he can sell. But, obviously if you don't have the confidence to be able to communicate, it kind of pulls you back.
Right.
But, kind of made an easy path for me to stay in the industry. I didn't take over any family business. I started from nothing, which is a blessing and a curse. But, you had opportunity to learn from your parents, which is really cool.
Yeah. And in my first week of fourth year dental school, my mom actually passed away. So I helped my dad keep the office open by driving a classmate, a colleague of mine, up to the office every Saturday so he could work on her patients, just to keep it open. And I was 7 months away from graduating, so
I took the finish line.
Yeah, it was crazy times, but I took over within 3 weeks of graduating, and then my dad retired, and here we are.
And now you're running. And I'll tell you, I've been a patient for years, through your family, through your mom, and then now watching you take over. And I'll be honest with you, the idea of changing barbers, changing dentists, changing massage therapists is something that's I don't know if everyone feels the same way, but I feel like it's such a personal relationship. It's a guy will have the same barber for 40 years. It's so funny. Girls may change. Maybe they change it more often. I don't know. But, when I thought of the idea of going to see you, I was will this guy know me? How will it be? But I can see the pivot that you've made, and you flourished, and your business is doing amazing. Still kept the same family orientated type business. And I know that obviously your sister works in the business as well. Your dad's kind of moved on, maybe hands off. He's, no longer involved. But how do you keep a growing business with a family business?
So it's a good question. I mean, one thing I'm very fortunate is my staff have, like, my whole team has been there since, two of them before I was born. One of them, my mom was
Come on.
with me during her interview. She remembers it, 1993, or
And who was that?
one of the hygienists. And then we have Agnes, who's semi-retired now, but she's been there since 1990 with my dad. She was his office manager. My other assistants, 14 years with the practice. Joanna's been there since
That's amazing.
they've all, so I think that's a big part of exactly what you're saying, where you're taking over a business. No one knows who you are. Even my mom's office, she used her maiden name. So who's Zelsman? They didn't know. My dad's was a little easier because, my name was already there and they sort of were more familiar. But my mom's, my dad had more time to educate the patients that I'm coming. Whereas my mom's was just, she's, she passed away now what sort of thing. So exactly what you said. But I think if you treat people well and, give them a good working environment, no drama, everyone's in a good mood at work, and then you can jump into those where even if you're the new thing, you maintain the same values, but you also have your own personal, everyone has a little different philosophy and their own little twist, and people have to be okay, open to that too.
Yeah. Well, I would say one thing that I noticed, I mean, and it might be because you set up a new office, which looks gorgeous, but also the technology is, I'm a techie, but like every time we're together, you're showing me some new tool, some new thing you bought. And I think I love the fact that it's not a machine from 1987.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
yeah, thanks. Yeah, my parents, my dad was a bit more techie. He had computers and digital X-rays a little on the earlier side, but my mom was the whole time until the end. Did what had to do. She was a paper appointment book. Can you imagine? You had to take an eraser and erase. Oh, so and so's moving their appointment. But that was a little while ago now. But she still, by then it was possible to be a bit more digital.
Yes,
but that's how she liked it, old school. But you're right. So that was a big thing for me. Was like, okay, like, first of all, what's out there? Like, what can I add, and what value will it provide to my patients? I mean, as you've seen, the big one is the intraoral camera. So like, I take pictures of everything. So I'm trying to describe, oh, this is like a cavity or a groove in your tooth, or you have a chip. Everyone's always like, oh, what do you mean? Like, and you used to, back in the day, you'd give them a mirror and try to show them in the mirror.
Yeah.
They can't see anything. That's right. It's like, what do we need? So now you just take a picture and put it on the screen in front of them. You can show before and afters of other cases similar to theirs. And then I've also got my 3D scanner now. So before, you used to have to use the goop, and everyone hates the goop. You feel like you're gagging. And now you just take a digital scan of your teeth, and you can do anything with that.
Yeah. Well, from the patient's point of view, and I mean, I'm a business guy at heart, and I always think about things in terms of value exchange. And when I'm providing value for my clients, I always think, how can I drive the most amount of value for them and their experience? And then as a consumer, I'm always thinking, how much value am I receiving in this moment, whether it's buying groceries or at the doctor's or getting my tires changed on my car. I'm thinking, what's the exchange here? And what I love about iPhone that I think changed things, and I'm a Tesla owner as well for the same reason, is that I buy an iPhone and then they constantly make it a little bit better. They come up with a new update, and then now I have emojis, or now I can, on the new update, I can record calls with a button, right? And when I come to see you, and if I'm getting my teeth cleaned, I love the fact that it's the same chair, same staff, but you've introduced some new technology, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's kind of like a free room upgrade in a sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's some improvement, and I'm like, oh, that's great. Like, I'm paying essentially the same amount of money, but now this is a high-tech version. Now there's a photo of my teeth. Now you're explaining a situation where there's a crack. Hey, here's a picture of your tooth. But what if I'm playing soccer and I get my teeth knocked out and I have to have my mouth reconstructed? Wow, I'm really glad that it's not in my mouth, because who's going to find that imprint? Whereas you have a full image.
Yeah, you're right. We store it all digitally. Like, someone calls me. This happens all the time. I lost my night guard, or my son's retainer broke, and like, exactly. I hear I have tons of those examples. But you're right. If you have a digital image of this, you have it forever. That exact, exact night, and people drive from all over. So that's another thing. I was very fortunate. Both my parents' offices, their patients come from everywhere. It's not just Markham, but a lot of them grew up in Markham, and now the next generation moved away. It's but it's amazing. They drive Kingston, Algonquin Park, Niagara Falls, Brantford.
So you can see, obviously, they're coming from so far. And I mean, there's an argument that, dentistry could be ubiquitous, kind of like chiropractic is pretty well one in every
Right.
few blocks, you'll find one, right? Especially now we see these huge mega corporations where it's like buying up everybody. And, the fact that they're coming to you from so far is a definite testament of the
Oh,
service you
thank
get
you.
through.
Yeah, we try. I mean, we try to, like you said, try to keep it personal touch. Like, that's actually why I renamed the business after myself, because I wanted to show I'm not a big corporation. I'm not just another. You're not going to see a different guy every time you come, and
Yeah.
and there's no billing quotas or requirements. There's nothing. It's just you come in. If you need help, we give you options. There's always a lot of options, and go from there. But exactly, yeah, it's amazing though. I'm still, even though, I'm very fortunate that everyone comes from everywhere. And like you said, I always think, how many dentists did they drive by to get to me?
Yeah.
It's special. It's nice.
When I was working at Mattamy Homes, I was managing production on site, and I talked to the labor crew, and they're responsible for anything, going to clean up something in the basement to moving lumber, and you could argue that the labor team on a construction site could work in any other builder along the way. And there was one guy I was talking to that came from Coburg, and I thought, why are you driving from Coburg? At the time, I was building in Richmond Hill. I said, how many construction sites did you pass from Coburg to get to Richmond Hill at 6:30 in the morning? I go, why didn't you just stop at the other construction? Like, it's the same job. And he goes, no, it's where I work. It's
Yeah.
like, it's the people, it's who I am. And I realized the power of identity is like, as soon as you say, this is who I am, we're working in Richmond Hill today. All right. We are working in Richmond Hill. It's not a job. It's a kind of
Right.
vocation. And, as a patient, I think that if people see, you as a specialist that knows who they are, you've been great, why leave? So you're going twice a year, right? Or I don't know, it depends how often. Do people still go? How often should you get your teeth checked?
So, I mean, if everything's healthy and good, twice a year is good. Every 6 months. If you're more prone to gum disease, or there's things we're monitoring, then some people are 3 months or 4 months for cleaning. Sometimes you don't need to see me every time. You can come, see me every second time and something like that. But, really depends. Everyone's very patient specific.
Yeah. So we're talking about patients with, like, I mean, I know a real estate agent's book of business, an agent that sells, for example, if they're working on their own, they may sell 20 homes in a year, and they're probably quite busy at 35 homes a year. If you don't have an assistant, generally the wheels fall right off. And then that's the kind of the metric when I'm talking to new agents. They say, well, to run a great real estate practice or a great business, how many homes can I sell in a year? And I said, well, you can sell as many as you want, but what are you going to sacrifice? Right. And generally after one assistant, you can get up to about 50 transactions in a year if you have a great assistant, but you're quite busy. In terms of dentistry, your client pool is huge compared to
Yeah. So average office, I would say, has maybe high hundreds to low thousands, patients kind of thing. I mean,
Yeah.
you're right. So same sort of metrics with us. It's a lot of it's how much can you do in a day too. But
Yeah.
it varies a ton, because for my office, a lot of my patients are very well maintained. So I have a lot of hygienists. That's why every time I'm there, there's usually a minimum of 3 hygienists working, because most times they come in for their cleaning, you check everything, and things are pretty okay. But if you're in, a different area, in Markham, a lot of people go to the dentist pretty regularly, I'd say. Whereas some of my friends and colleagues who are in other areas, it's a lot of emergency based dentistry. So then it's less people coming every 3, 4, 6 months for cleanings, but it's a lot of toothaches and a lot of, so in that sense, you might have a bigger volume of just for dental work that has to get done. But other offices that are bigger than mine have associates, so they have multiple dentists. Just, for me, that's always a hard topic that people always ask me. Oh, are you gonna get an associate? Are you gonna, I used to work 6 days a week when I graduated, which was a little excessive. It was a lot. I was always at the office, and now we've condensed it. But I was able to get more. I realized, I tried to look at it. I was like, okay, it's not the dentistry that I have to get done. So I need more people cleaning teeth. So that's when, with the big location, I can have the hygienist there with me, and the associate. But offices vary in size like crazy. Probably in real estate it's the same.
But the fact that you know them so well, and we were just before we turned on the cameras, you said that you remember everyone. I know that. Well, I feel like you know me, but I don't know if it's a personal relationship. When I walk in, I feel like everyone knows me. I feel like I'm at Cheers, and I'm like, man, I come here twice a year. How bad are my teeth? or how much do I talk and annoy you? That everyone remembers
No,
who I am.
what stood out with you was that the old office, the first parking spot had a garbage bin there. And then this was, I think, my first time meeting you. And you'd come into the waiting room and you're just looking outside and you're like playing on your phone. And then you'd left your car parked out. And then you remote controlled it because you couldn't open the door if you had parked properly.
Yeah.
So that was a memorable. I mean, everyone's got something that's memorable. I still talk about that with my, yeah, you just backed your car. And I was like, because that spot's always been a challenge at the old place. But yeah, with the patients, I mean, a lot of it, you remember the work. Like if I really care about the actual things I do. And I like, especially bigger cases, you remember all of them. Like people need it. Someone will text me, do you have an example of, a certain type of post or a crown that you did? Usually it takes me a second. I know the patient, I don't store them, let's say organized separate under, post, but I know the patient's name. I just look it up. It's like, oh, here's one I did the same, and
That's unbelievable. Yeah. You can remember thousands of mouths.
yes, you do. You usually the dentistry. Yeah. Thousands of mouths.
Isn't the human brain so incredible? Like, I joke because I'll see a client and maybe I helped them buy a home 7 years ago, and they'll say, "Oh, we're doing a renovation in the kitchen." I said, "Oh yeah, do you guys still have those orange curtains off to the side?" And they're like, "Wow, you still remember?" I said, "Yeah, because it matched the tiles." And they're like, "Wow, you can remember all that." I go, "For some reason, I'll remember a house I showed 13 years ago. Not like there was something significant. I may have showed 10 houses in a day. I'll remember if you bring up the one house. I'm like, yep, I remember the master bedroom was too small." And then I joke with clients. I said, my wife will say, "Bring home milk after work." And on the way home, I just drive right by the store. It doesn't enter my brain at all to stop, but I can remember the color of your grout from 10 years ago.
100%. I'm the exact same. I don't know. It's amazing.
Brain is like,
She just sent me to the grocery store last week and I forgot to buy the one most important thing. She wanted like certain apple and I just didn't buy it. I bought the regular stuff and I didn't, but you're right. But even my dad's the same. I tell my dad, oh, so-and-so was in and they say hi. Cause a lot of the patients, especially, my dad's will be like, "How's he doing? Please say hi to him." And sometimes he'll call them, keep in touch. Some of them have been since 1980. I look at the original chart. I pull out the chart. We still have it at the office. I pull out the chart. He'll be like, "When was that filling done?" I'll be like, "Oh, 84, so, but he'll remember, he'll be like, "Oh yeah, I did a bridge on them, and, I was like, you've been retired and these are things from 40 years ago. But I guess,
I think when you care, it shows. And I think that goes back to the first comment, which is what keeps people coming back to your business when you offer a service that, arguably can be done in a similar way by lots of other people. What brings people back? And I think the fact that, and that might be the best thing that your parents taught you, is not how to create a crown or, do a polish. It was how to care about people.
right, yeah.
And most of the people that I've had on the show, guests we've had, generally, if you look back and weave through, they're all, have a high emotional IQ. I think you have an incredibly high emotional IQ. I think that your care for people comes through, and that might be DNA, might be environment that you brought up in. In either case, you could probably point to your parents. You're right. And
Yeah. I think I have a couple like philosophies that I really try and follow. One thing with dental work, like, because general dentists are technically allowed to do a huge variety of procedures. You can do anything the specialists do, really. It's not like, you can't go to your family doctor for neurosurgery, but you can go to a general dentist and get full mouth implants. I mean, some of the best implant dentists in Toronto are general dentists who just do implants. So my rule, is if I wouldn't do this procedure on myself, I'm not going to do it on someone else. So if I wouldn't go to myself for it, which is a lot of procedures, I do what I'm good at, and I try and focus on that. But if you need a molar root canal, I wouldn't do it on myself. So I'm not going to do it on you. And I tell people, because people say, "Why can't you do it?" Well, I can't. I wouldn't do it on me. I don't trust me to do it because I don't. There's a reason. It's complex. It's this, and maybe that'll change. Maybe I'll take more courses, and I'm always tweaking my scope. Taking more training and this and that. But exactly, like, those are things. I think if you just treat people how you would expect, the quality of service you would expect. You want to go to a place, you want to be treated well. If something goes wrong, you want to be taken care of. You want someone who stands by, and it's going to be the same guy every time. You don't want to go there and I don't know, I didn't do it. It's a problem. So with everything, not just dentistry, I think that's they call here, you're here. It's your office. That's
Well, you try your best to manage the experience. I mean, I know you guys wholeheartedly. I mean, we're talking about texting because I mean, I've texted you before. I've texted your sister, and I'm blown away. I'm like, wow, I have access to text the dentist. I'm like, that's so crazy. Like I remember after we had done a filling and you had texted me saying, hey, just want to check in. How is it? And I was like, this is a robot. I'm like, this guy's techie. He showed me like a camera that looked like NASA and he put it in my mouth. And like, he's got a robot. And then I don't remember what I wrote back, but I was like, is this really the doctor? I was like, let's text him back. And you responded back. And it's 8:30 on a Friday night. I'm like, what is this guy doing? I'm like, that is so cool. So inspiring. I mean, the idea of the accessibility, but also the care that you thought maybe Ralph is swollen or maybe he's in pain.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I love my text. The texting system is like we couldn't live without it. A lot of them, exactly what you said. There's some dental specific automated ones, but
Yeah.
on mine, any message that goes through my office, I can see it. I can look back, reference something. Like you said, you can check in on people, and I want people to know that I'm available. If we did a procedure and it's 11 at night, and you have a quick question, maybe not about scheduling, but if you have a quick question about, something's feeling a little funny, the freezing question about the freezing or an extraction, or I think that in 2 seconds you can diffuse so many things, because I'm on my phone anyways. What's an extra 2 seconds to take so-and-so message, or I can check in on them, like you said, but it's more so to know that if you need me, you just text and it goes right to my phone, and it's through a secured, compliant app. It's not just my cell number. It's it's a system exactly that logs in, and so I can just say, oh yeah, that's normal, or, oh, you know what, I want to take a look, could you come in tomorrow? And I can log into my computer and book them for tomorrow. But I love that. I think that, because I would want that, exactly like we were saying. I would want that relief of, with medicine. I'm noticing they don't really do that as much with try to get a hold of your doctor.
It's the worst.
You can't.
Worst. It's the worst. I think the medical system is a little bit different. You're in medical, but a little bit different because it's private. And I think that's the critical difference. And then, what if I have a bad experience with you, I'm going to go somewhere else, and that's going to affect your bottom line. So that makes you think, how do I get better? Whereas my family doctor's capped at the amount of income they can earn. They've got a full practice. If I leave, they don't care because there's a waiting list, because there's a shortage of doctors. I think the medical system in Canada, I think it's very broken. I think it's very, very broken. And I think I believe it's broken on purpose, because I think that the future that they're yielding towards is a two-tiered medical system, which has its pros and has its cons. But I tell you, I ruptured my ACL 2 years ago, and I tried to get an MRI, and I couldn't get an MRI. They refused to give me it. I'm like, this is not right. I don't know what's wrong, but it's not right. Well, maybe you can do some physio. I said, but if something is ripped or torn or broken, the physio doesn't do anything. And, I was going to Vancouver for a medical conference, and I was able to book a full body MRI. I had just turned 40, and I thought, why not get a full checkup? And you could just go in and pay for a full body MRI in British Columbia. It's allowed. It's illegal. I learned illegal. You can go to jail at the time for offering a pay for service MRI in Canada. I thought, but the MRI is an image. It's for health. It's for benefit. It's not like you're selling illicit drugs, but it's the whole system. And then now you're creating a two-tier system, which again, it's challenging. But my point is, you've taken the benefit of entrepreneurialism, and drive to improve the client experience, and you brought that into the medical industry. And I think that's why you're thriving. I think for anybody that's listening right now, and they see someone as a profession, as a lawyer, as a doctor, as a dentist, and that's kind of like growing up seemed to be the upper echelon. Like, when I grow up, I want my kids to be one of those titles. And they think, once I finish my LSAT or my bar or my, get my certification, I'm going to mint money. Well, no, there's a lot of dentists that have very, very strong financial problems. There's a lot of doctors, a lot of financial problems, because they're not driving the experience to be better for their clients. And I think that there's an opportunity for people to stay up and text their clients.
Right.
Anybody starting a business, in my opinion, you should be available to text your clients at 11 p.m. And people say, oh, but there's work-life balance. Yeah, look, there can be work-life balance later on. When you're getting started, no, you got to answer the phone at 7:30 in the morning, 11 o'clock at night. My clients know, they reach out to me. It is what it is. You cannot be responsible for something of significance and not be available.
I agree.
My opinion. It might drop.
Yeah. And I think what you're saying too, a big thing is to have good mentors. I think any of those, like as a lawyer, anything, there's so much unknown. I think our generation's better at it than our parents. Like, a lot of people wouldn't be open to sharing as much. Whereas now I find, I learned a lot from my parents, but eventually you kind of exhaust that information. There's only so much you can learn, and you're only learning one path. Whereas then you talk to other dentists. Some of my closest friends are mentors I met online, other dentists online, and
No way.
talk every day about cases, about this, about business, about everything, and people who are open and willing to share, and you do the same. There's always something you can help them with. My thing is equipment repair. So tons of people.
No way. You represent
Yeah,
yourself.
I've almost
Sort of crazy guy.
it's all I'll get messages, I mean, people may not come to me, all the time for, like, let's say they have a lot more experience than me in the teeth side of things, but they'll be like, hey, I have a broken this unit, what do you think? Or
Yeah.
I'll see a Facebook post. There's a lot of dental Facebook groups and stuff, Toronto and national, and
Yeah.
and if I see something if I can contribute in my way, which is helping people fix equipment or save money on repairs, because these companies, they'll tell you need a new one, where sometimes it's a simple repair. But I think having those mentors, like you said, you graduate as a lawyer, dentist, anything. Even some of my doctor friends, some of my closest friends are emerge doctors, and they said they have to mentor the new guys because they don't know how to build OHIP. They don't know. There's so much that's not taught in school that I think a lot of it is from other people more experienced than you.
Well, I think, having the growth mindset, having an abundance mindset. So growth meaning I always want to learn and grow more, and abundance meaning I have more than enough I can share. So those two mindsets that I try to impose on my kids is, there's always more that you can learn and grow. You can always be better, and then always be willing to share what you've got. Because I believe that blessings and lessons kind of together, they work almost like water. So lessons in nature, we would see water that sits still. Water that comes in and doesn't move becomes a pond and becomes toxic. Nothing will grow in the pond. But if there's a way in for water, a mass, a pond, and then a way out, that becomes a river. And that's the cleanest water. You can literally just drink it. So there has to be a way for blessings to come in, but you have to be able to have blessings on their way out. And if you do, then that's abundance, and that's clarity, and that's life. And if not, that's poison, and that's.
I agree. I couldn't have said it better. Would never have thought of that example. No, I love that because I believe the same. I hope to teach my son that too. Because and I believe we're always growing. Something I thought was good before, I can learn is there's a better way. There's always
A better way. I know you're a constant student, always reading something, always watching something. What are you reading right now?
First it's like an online module where you just learn all the theory behind it, which a lot of it was familiar because if you're already doing the part in the mouth and you sort of know some of the theory behind it, then you do in person in a facility. You go there and other dentists train like the
On real people.
well, first it's on models, and then it's on eventually you at the end, once you've met your requirement that you're allowed to place it, then you can bring your own patient, or they'll supply a patient, and they'll do it with you. So you'll place it, but they'll be right beside you and make any corrections, and usually you help the patients financially with it. It's not it's not like they have to pay for it per se, but
Wow.
but it's nice because you know everything to do. It's just a matter of the first time actually doing it. It's just something different. There's not like you do 100 fillings and then the next filling is just a filling. This is something a little different. But that was my latest advancement, I guess.
Yeah, that's the part that I always thought was challenging for dentist specific. Anyone that so you could be a doctor and study medicine and understand, like, as a family physician, what are the common issues, and this is the core issue there, and what's the medicine or solution. Whereas for you have to physically do something. It's like there's a textile, there's a dexterity component to it, and I guess learning the theory is one thing, but how do you learn?
For
the
sure.
practice?
Usually everything is applicable. Like if you've got the dexterity to do a filling, then you can also do a crown, and once you do one crown, you can do a set of crowns, and then there's always these little jumps though that are the bigger ones. There's some where people put a limit and say, okay, I only ever want to do this, and that's as far as I want to go. But I think it's important to also do it slowly. Like you're not gonna graduate dental school and do every procedure perfectly under the sun, because if you overdo, if you're a little overconfident, then sometimes maybe people aren't always getting the ideal treatment. So you kind of it's better to wait, and in my opinion at least, it's better to wait and get really, really good at the stuff and then slowly take those little steps to be like, okay, I can do this or that. Or if you're unsure, you find a program like that one I did, and they'll mentor you. Like if you need mentorship, you can go there and place even your next case. You want supervision, no problem. And people most patients, if they know you, they're very understanding, because everyone knows if you're honest, you say, listen, I'm doing something different or this or that. It's I think it's beneficial in that sense.
It's funny when you said supervision. I thought you were talking about getting like supervision. I was like,
Yeah.
sign me up. Like I would love. And Jerry Seinfeld says he just got laser eye surgery. And he goes, I don't know why I put it off. What could be more important than instantly improving my eyesight? It's
true.
like, so yeah, that's and in terms of vision being in Markham, I think that part of it might have been natural because you had the practices that were already established. But as an entrepreneur in Markham, where do you see the future of Markham, and why is it that you decided to pick Markham as a place to kind of to flourish your
So
business?
I think it's changing a lot, Markham. I mean, it's interesting if you look at the history from the before the 80s and then the 80s, 90s. There's been a different influx of different groups of people. I find what's fascinating about Markham, I find it the most people ask me, oh, what patient base, what are your patients like, or where are they from, or it's the most diverse patient base I could ask for. Sure, I have a lot of patients from my dad's time in the 80s, 90s from Hong Kong who came here. There was a big group uh, who immigrated from Hong Kong, so they speak Cantonese. So of course my dad learned some words in Cantonese
Hey,
and passed some of those on to me. But it's incredibly diverse. Like there's no one. You have little pockets and groups everywhere. The one thing I'm noticing is it's becoming a little older, the population. I notice there is some new. I do see some new patients come in. Oh, I just moved to the area, so maybe some of them are selling their houses and retiring. But a lot of the next generation are trying to stay just around Markham, a little bit east, a little bit north, because I guess it's
has become more expensive. It is harder for a young family to say, "Listen, I want my first house to be in Markham." That is it's challenging economically based on average salaries and the cost of life and the cost of real estate for sure. And maybe somebody that lives around, like I grew up in the area just around your practice, and people would have bought those homes for $75,000 in 1985 or 1990, and it might be worth 1.3 million now. So, for the person that bought it, they've now, been there for so
yeah.
long. But it'd be interesting to see the kind of the transition of new families
Yeah, I like
coming
seeing
in.
that. It's when I get it every time I get a new patient, it's, how do you hear about us? And a lot of it's word of mouth, Google reviews. But Google reviews, I say, oh, like, how do you find this? Oh, I just, I moved back to Markham. Exactly, I moved to the area. It's nice, but it is. But a lot of them have been a lot of original owners, especially like in my little subdivision there. It's you ask them. I see the address, and it's like on Hillcroft, on the same street as my office. I say, oh, you know, you just walked over, but they've been there since the beginning. So it's interesting. I mean, the I love working there. It's only about under 20 minutes from where I live, so it's
Yeah. So your office is located, just for anyone that's watching. Maybe they're here. They watch the show. They say, "Listen, I want this guy to work on my teeth." So you're located on Hillcroft,
right.
and you're just in between Markham Road and
No,
McAllen.
Western McCown. So I'm on the corner of Hillcroft and Steeles. It's called Zelsman Dental, my name.
Yeah,
Yeah, but they've been there since the plaza was built, and then now we have a new facility there. Like you're saying,
yeah.
it's a lot bigger. We built it in 2019, the new office, and then took over another unit in the plaza in 2022, which I forgot to mention.
Exciting times. That's a big expansion. That must have been challenging to decide to go. I mean, 2022. We're talking about just past
Right.
pandemic, right? That's takes some
Yeah.
some guts to say let's open it up.
Yeah, fortunately, the banks are very generous to dentists. Yeah,
Are they?
yeah,
I guess I know you guys can be cash cows. Like
they're very generous. I mean, they love making interest off you, but they'll give you some big loans if you. I mean, it's scary. You graduate school and you got to buy a practice, but luckily, most banks, with a reasonable, purchase plan and everything, they'll finance at 100%. So, including construction loans on top. So they'll give you every cent you need for the office and give you more money for the build. So it just
And how did you learn that? In dentist school, did they teach you about business?
not at all, not at all.
There's a
Huge
gap
gap,
there, isn't
huge
there?
gap about you graduate and you don't really know much about that side of things, about the business side. Or a lot of people become associates now, which means, so you touched on before about big corporations. So that's a big thing in dentistry now is these few big companies are buying up a lot of the offices, and they were paying big bucks for them that, even as a regular dentist, you couldn't compete with it. You couldn't pay that kind of money. So they were
Yeah.
they were getting dentists would think about retirement, they would sell to the corporation, and often there's some sort of structure where you stay on for 5 years, helping them transition. You know, you have to maintain the billing a certain way, and a lot of the dentists by the end of the 5 years are kind of a little bit exhausted. Like it's time, you know, maybe they just wanted to retire, sort of thing. But that's the tricky thing. It's very hard now to just graduate and be an owner. You'd have to, you know, you have to find the right practice
somewhere.
You know, building is a different thing. If you just find a land or like a unit and build a practice, and you're spending a lot on marketing, how do you get patients? It's very nice to come into an established patient base, but the corporate side, it's changed dentistry a lot. I mean, it's happening with vets as well. You know, every vet in my area I went, they were all owned by the same company. So,
wow. And now, would you know if you, I mean, from a branding or naming perspective, would I know that the dentist I go
not
to?
usually. Good question. Yeah, usually they try and keep it the exact same. They try and, you know, but there's little signs, you know, sometimes on the website. It's very hard to quantify, but, you know, a big sign is that if you go there and, you know, every time there's a different dentist and no one's actually the owner, or different, you know, sometimes I think it's important to ask. I think people should know that you should know who's, because
I think so too.
maybe that doesn't change anything. Maybe you still go there and you love your dentist, and that's okay. And they sold for whatever reason. That's okay. But I think it's important to know at the end of the day, whose office is it? Like, who is it? You know, are you just a number? But like I said, some of them have long-term dentists, a different story. You get the same experience, you're seeing the same person, but other ones, I've heard of it, when I ask new patients, you know, oh, what didn't you like about the other office? You know, what can we do differently? Because I always like to know about their past experience, because, I find it so important. Like, oh, I didn't like that they blank. But a lot of the comments I get is, I didn't like, you know, every time I went, it was all different people, different dentists, different this. And so I think that triggers me. I look it up sometimes. Oh, is it corporate? Like, who owns that office? Because usually, if you're, like you said, if you're a business owner, it's your business. You know, your name's on the wall. It's, you know.
Well, I can tell you what I didn't like about the last dentist that I had. It seemed as if every November, December appointment, they would find 1,000 problems. And I'm like, wow, I was here a few months ago. Everything was fine. Oh, you know, Ralph, you're at the end of your limit for your benefits. So, you know, let's book Ralph in for Thursday in January, first Thursday in January, and we're gonna get all these things taken care of. They would drain all my benefits first week of January, and then I do a cleaning in whatever April, and then one again in November. Of course, in November again. Oh, we found all these problems. I said, you couldn't find them any other time in the year. You only find them at the very end, and you book me for January when my benefits renew. And it took me 3 years to figure out that this was a pattern. And then I talked to someone else, and I said, that's a sleazy way to run a business. I won't mention any names because I don't want to throw them under the bus, but, you know, I would say that you have to have some vision, or you have to have some emotional intelligence to say, is this happening constantly? Whereas, you know, when I come to see you, there's lots of times you're talking me out of doing something, right? And I mean, from a business point of view, I understand it's an exchange of expertise and time for money in that service. But I mean, I remember when I broke my crown. You had done a crown on I had done a root canal, and you'd done a crown, and I brought my son to a TFC game. It was Canada versus Jamaica. It was in January. It was freezing cold, and my son said, "Dad, can I get some Snicker bites?" Just a bag of just little chocolates. With, of course, you leave chocolates outside in January. It's frozen solid. I put it in my mouth, took a bite, and crack. And I remember I went to go see you, and I said, "What do I do? You know, this thing's cracked." And I remember distinctly, you said, "It's my crown. I did it. It cracked. Now, it was my fault that it cracked. Like, I acknowledge, I put the frozen chocolate in my mouth, but you said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to repair for you. Let's get you in here." Whatever. Super fast turnaround. And you're like, I'm not going to charge you for it because I just did that crown. And I want to make sure that it's done right. And I was like, wow, this is my dentist for life.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean,
you know,
it wasn't totally your fault. Like, things are your fault. It wasn't totally your fault that you didn't know it was hard, but also my whole theory is, you came to me, I just did this. Doesn't matter what you did. Even if you ate a rock on purpose, you took a rock and put it in and said, David, I'm going to eat a rock and see what happens. I still don't want it to break. You know, there's obviously you expect people to be reasonable, but, you know, I remember that clearly. And I think I did it the same day. But you know, but how much work is there really? You know, I already did the crown. I know that it's solid under there. The root canal is solid. Yeah.
But that's what you say. But a different practitioner would have said, "Oh, well, you know, let's redo the root canal. Let's fix the teeth around." Like, they would have went to town, because I was
I didn't even check your coverage. Like, because to me, it doesn't matter. Even if it's covered at 100%, it's covered. I can get paid by insurance. I mean, I did it. I don't feel good that it broke. It shouldn't, I don't like when, I like doing work that'll last for the person. Cause that's what I would want. I want work done right and it lasts. And to know, it's comforting to know if it doesn't last, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it.
Well, it's comforting to know that
Right.
you'll stand behind it. And we follow a similar practice in my business. Buying a house is a huge thing, and moving it affects every aspect of your life, and buying the right house is the key. And we pride ourselves on helping people buy the right house. And we've got a policy. I don't advertise it because I don't want to get abused, but every one of our clients knows our policy that if you buy a house and you don't love it, I'll sell it for free.
Wow.
So if you buy a house, you move in, you say, oh my God, Ralph, why did I buy this house? It's a lemon. And we say within 1 year, just because I don't want somebody to say 7 years later, I hate it. And they made $2 million profit and I do it for free. But if you buy a house that we help you purchase and we encourage you to buy it and you don't like it, you don't love it, I'll sell it for free. I'll put my name on the line.
That's amazing.
Because, yeah, well, it's like, now it's amazing. You say, oh, wow, that's so cool and so generous. I'm not the one that gave up the most. You gave up the most. You moved your family. You went through this whole rigmarole. You made a mistake in your mind. And I was your guide. I have to take responsibility on that. I think I would love to see our industry make that change industry-wide, that real estate agents have to sell the house for free.
Right.
Or there's got to be some other punishment.
Yeah.
Right. If your neighbor sells their house for more money than what you sold, then the agent has to pay something. It has to be some financial consequence, because it's just, it holds people
For sure.
accountable for their work. And, in your industry, people go to the dentist, hopefully, twice a year. And then if there's a bad experience, dentists will bleed out because people won't return. Whereas in my industry, the thing that I hate is an agent can have perpetual bad service, perpetual, negative process or experience or values. They do bad work and the client has a bad experience. They won't buy another house for 7 years. So that agent can carry on failing the system, and they won't get punished until 7 years later when that client lists their house with somebody else. So they never feel the pain.
Yeah. In dentistry, though, a lot of people don't know. That's one aspect too, is like you were saying, they have that's just the patient experience side. But what if people are actually not noticing? They don't know any better. They have a good experience, but you don't always know what's going on in your mouth. That's why another thing I would say for everyone is you should be so informed, like well informed. You should be informed of what's the diagnosis, like what's actually going on in my mouth. Let me see it. Ask questions. I always encourage that. Ask questions. Say, what are my options? Because there's usually more, if someone says, oh, your only option, sometimes there's only one option, but usually there's multiple options. Often there's the option of doing nothing. You chipped your crown. You could have, I still have to present to you. You could leave it for now. Like there's problems with that, of course, but you have to go over pros, cons, and ask as many questions. I love that. But like you said, you don't always get I see what you mean, but in dentistry too, you don't always know that you're being treated improperly. Whereas
that's a good point. How would you get the message out if you, had the power to? How would you be able to? I guess you nailed it by saying ask questions, challenge. But is there any other way? I mean, do people get second opinions? Should they get a second opinion? I always feel like a goof if I, I'm thinking about like when I had my ACL surgery. People are like, get a second opinion. What am I going to go and say? This other doctor said it might be this. What do you say?
I think it's very reasonable.
Super
I think
helpful.
it's very reasonable to get a second opinion. I see it all. I actually offer in my office, like policy we have is I offer free second opinions because of that exact thing. Because people feel lost. They get, they spent $150 to go to the dentist, get an X-ray, and are told, this tooth has to come out. That's what they're told. And maybe they were nervous. They didn't ask enough questions, or they don't really understand why or this. So I don't want to be the one. I'm not going to charge them again. So they just paid someone. So usually I say, can you just get your X-ray? Like ask for X-ray, which you can always do too. So anyone can ask for any records of the office. It's actually owned by the patient.
That's important.
Yeah. So you can say, can you email me my X-rays? No problem. Sometimes they'll say, oh, send a request from your new dentist, which you can fill out. But I get that all the time, and
Canadians are too
right.
polite.
Exactly. It's true. I know, but not all my patients are Canadian, so they don't mind. But they don't mind. So they'll come. Exactly what we said. They'll come for a second opinion and say, "What do you think? Is this? I was told this has to come out." That's like a easy example. Is it savable? And sometimes, you just have to show them, take a picture and show the X-ray. Maybe they saw the X-ray, but they didn't really understand. Like I say, oh, this darkness shows that it's fractured. No, really, your dentist. Sometimes the dentist nails it. I say, yeah, your dentist got it right on, there's really nothing you can do about it. But other times they show me a tooth that says, I could think of one recently that he said he went to his dentist twice and he was in pain, and they checked it and they couldn't really figure it out. Some of those are tough to figure out. You got to do testing on it, check the gum measurement, and that one I was like, this has to come out. I took a new x-ray for him. But yeah, I think free second opinions, I think there's nothing wrong with it. Even if they come for the second opinion and I give them reassurance that they're at a good dentist, that they should feel confident, they can go back to their dentist and they don't have to even tell their dentist they went for a second opinion. It doesn't matter. It's okay. They don't have to see me for it. But I think that reassurance in dentistry is huge, because this one, I told him, I was like, that tooth has to come out. Like, it's a bad infection. I said, it's got to go. So and then I don't charge for that. Obviously, if I end up doing the work, I charge for the work. But the free second opinion, because I think a limiting factor is people's mentality. You paid for something. I'm not going to bother going to look into, why would I, like you said, with your knee, you went to the doctor, am I going to go see another surgeon? I have to ask for a new referral. I think it's worth it. It's not,
we should be more advocates. We should be better advocates for our,
yeah, for our
industry. In our industry, it's a little bit, I find it inspiring what you're saying, and I'm going to try to implement that more in my practice. But I would say, in our business, it's what's my home worth? What's your marketing plan? So I've done hundreds of appointments where people will come in and say, well, I want to meet with you. I want to know what my house is worth. And when's the best time to list? And what's a good marketing plan? And I'll go and my grandfather taught me, give with two hands. Never give with the other hand ready to receive.
100%.
Right? And, it's worked well in my life thus far. So I'm not going to change that. But I go to a client's house and we're ready and we're extremely prepared. If we're doing a home evaluation, I think based on what I've seen in the industry, and I get to see behind the curtains of other realtors, I know what they perform. I know what the industry standards are. I think our process of evaluating a home and the marketing plan that's associated with it is on a next level. That's what we strive for. And then sometimes I'll see the client list with another person who's never sold a home before. They've taken my exact price and they've taken my exact marketing plan, and it's just frustrating in that regard. I'm like, that's intellectual property. Right. So like, you're offering free intellectual property to say, is it? I guess it's different, but maybe I have to be a better human.
No, I see, but it's different because that's actually your business revolves around your intellectual property. Whereas I'm okay to get paid for the work I do. I don't mind talking. Whereas lawyers, their whole business is talking. You can't ask for free advice. There's no such thing. They're paid for advice.
Exactly.
So they're paying you for their guidance. They're not paying. I just want to be paid to fix your teeth. I don't need to be paid to talk about it. People send me x-rays, from around, like, family members from overseas and stuff like that. They'll text me, hey, what do you think of this? Like, I'm always open, even on non-dentist Facebook groups. I say, message me anytime, because that's the difference. Your business you need to make a living on intellectual. Everything is it's in your mind. It's not, your service is all based on what you feel. Whereas for me, I want to get paid to fix things. Sure, if I'm doing a big exam or a consult, I'm paid for my time. But if you already had that, that's where I. But if someone's with an agent right now, and says, hey, listen, I listed, but Ralph, help me out. Like, I don't know if this is okay or not, what they did, or what do you think?
I get those calls. I get those calls probably. This year it was more frequent because the market was topsy-turvy. Probably 2 calls a month from somebody who's already in a relationship with an agent, and they're saying, oh my God, what do I do? And in that case, they're looking for an expert that they can trust. And, I have very specific rules on what I can say and what I can't say to someone that's currently in a relationship with an agent. If somebody's calling me, the rules are a little bit different. But, I always say a great guide, they say a great captain can, let me rephrase that. Let's take this again. So they say a good captain can steer the ship out of choppy waters. A great captain can avoid choppy waters. Right? So it's not about solving the problem once it's there. It's how do you avoid the problem to begin with? And in most cases, in my industry, people got themselves in a mess because they took bad advice. And now they're looking for great advice to get them, at least to neutral. That's what they always say. If I can just walk away breaking even, I said, you recognize you're already in the hole based on the decisions you made. It's really hard to turn the ship around and break even, but we do the best we can.
Right, but they might keep that in mind. Even if all you did was one phone call, they'll know the next time they sell. But you said, it's a really good point. Like you said, you don't see them. You might not see them for 7 years again.
I may never see them again. I've given tons of advice, saving people
Right,
hundreds of
yeah.
thousands of dollars, and I've never met them in person, and I'll never meet them again. And that's okay with me. Because like I said, I see life in terms of the blessings we've received is that the more blessings that you can give out, the more blessings you can receive.
Yeah, that's huge.
You don't want a flood. You don't want stagnant
I
water.
love that.
Anything else you want to bring up? I mean, I know we've gone kind of around all over. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks
This has
for
been
having
great.
me. No, I learned from you too. I love all these. You have great analogies for these things. Because sometimes I think of things and then that's another thing with like reading or talking to people. It's like you might have like a thought, but you can't quantify it. And sometimes you'll read the right something, and one example of that. I don't know if this is relevant, but I used to read some books on finance and saving and about life. I was traveling a lot with my wife before we had the kid and the dog.
Yeah.
And one of the things I used to always think, like, you go on a trip and then it's over, and that's it. You spent all this money and time, and now it's a week and it's gone. And one of the books I read said, I can't remember which one it was, but it said that these experiences pay a memory dividend. They said, think of it, you're making that initial investment, you're paying for the trip, but you're going to relive those. Nicole and I all the time will be like, remember that time, in Prague when this happened? You get a little paycheck every time forever. So I thought that was huge. I wish I remembered which one that was. Maybe it was Die with Zero or something, but something like that. So I love to me, that one, I've shared that with my friends, and it's like, you have to think of things. It's not just that one day that was, that was expensive, because it's easy to be like, why did I pay for Taylor Swift tickets, or why did I go on a week, vacation for so much money? It's like, no, it's like, you're going to have those little memories all the time, and those little inside jokes, and, you'll meet someone and you'll keep in touch.
That's what life's about, right? It's those memories, it's those experiences. And we had a great conversation with Harry James, who had an inspiring point of view on, you can't add more time in your life. So don't work your whole life to amass this wealth. The key thing is, can you amass a life?
Yeah. Total life fulfillment.
Right? Total life. All right. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Comment down below if you found any message in today's show inspiring. Of course, if you'd like to reach out to Dr. Zelsman, you can reach out, probably by Google to connect with you.
Yeah.
Would you say?
Yeah, Google Google best. You can call or text my office. If you Google Zelsman Dental, you'll see my website and my story.
And how do you spell that? How would you spell Zelsman?
Zelsman Dental.
Perfect. And if you like this and you want to do me a personal favor, I'm asking, help me out. Let's go to Dr. Zelsman's Google page and give him a 5-star review. If you felt anything inspiring on this chat, it'd be a great way to say thank you to our guest who's giving. They don't get paid. Guests on the show are just here to share with you so that you can hopefully learn something or feel a little bit inspired. And of course, that's a great way for us to give back. So thanks so much for watching. Until next time, make it a great one.